You ever walk away from a leadership conversation thinking, why did I just explain all of that? If you're constantly justifying decisions, managing reactions, or talking past the point of clarity, this episode is for you. Today, we're unpacking why over-explaining shows up in leadership and how it sneakily weakens your authority and what it looks like to lead with calm confidence instead, because clarity doesn't need a long explanation. Hi, friend. Are you ready to move into a leadership position? Do you have interests and ambitions that you want to pursue, but feel like you don't know how to take that next step? Maybe you want to start your own coaching or consulting agency. I'm Mel, and I help educators define their career path through correct mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for your career transition. I will show you how to level up your leadership skills, share your expertise in a new way, create impact on a larger scale, and put your leadership in motion. As an educator for over 20 years, I started to feel underused and like I had more to give. I knew when the time had come for me to leave the classroom and affect change on a larger level. Now, I'm ready to help you determine where your talents and skills mesh with your passions and interests, put your leadership in motion, and move into that next phase of your educational career journey. Let me help you define your career path by having the right mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for that next leadership position. So power up and put your leadership in motion. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Van de Voort. I've been trying to come up with some really good topics to talk about. And recently, I've realized that there's something that I do as a leader, and my principal does this as a leader, and it's something that muddies the water. We've all made a decision, and we feel great about our decision, and we've communicated it, and then we just keep talking. We feel like we have to explain the why. And then we feel like we have to explain the backstory. And then we have to explain the backup plan or the backup story. And by the time you're done, you're thinking, why in the world did I feel the need to explain all of that? Today, I want to talk about feeling the need to over-explain and why you fall into that trap as a leader and how it kind of undermines what we're trying to accomplish. It quietly works against us in a way, and how to stop without becoming cold and distant or unapproachable. Because leadership doesn't really require a long explanation. It just requires clarity. So let's talk about why leaders over-explain. Most leaders don't over-explain because they're unsure. They over-explain because they care. They care about relationships. They care about morale. They care about being fair. And underneath all of that, there's usually one of three things happening. You want people to like the decision, you want people to understand the decision, or you're trying to manage the discomfort that comes along with being the one who has to decide. Or really, I guess there can be four things. Because you say it and then you wait and there's a pause and you look at somebody's face and you're like, I feel like I need to justify this a little bit more. Over-explaining kind of feels like a protection. It's your cuddly security blanket. But most of the time, it actually is a signal that you're trying to convince someone of something instead of just being the leader. But there's a cost of over-explaining. And here's where it starts to hurt you as a leader. When you over-explain, people learn that every decision that you make or everything you say is open for debate. They start waiting for those loopholes. They push back, not because they disagree, but because they've been invited to disagree. And meanwhile, you're drained. You're replaying conversations over and over and over in your head. And you guys already know that about me. I will play a conversation in my head 100 times and think of things I should have said differently. That takes a lot of energy that I could be putting towards something else that hasn't actually happened yet. Or you may be wondering if you've not said enough, or maybe you actually have said too much. Strong leadership doesn't come from saying more, guys. It comes from being steady and predictable and clear. And I find the more I explain myself, the more animated I become in my facial expressions, my body language, my hand gestures. My hands are going right now just talking to you, and I'm the only one here, but I feel like I need to move and be animated to make things come out clearly or passionately. So what's the difference between clarity and justification? Well, this is a big one, guys. Clarity says, here's the decision, here's what it means, here's what's next. Justification sounds like, here's the decision, and here's why I promise it's fair and reasonable and not personal, and blah, 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 blah. One creates alignment, the other creates words and negotiation. There's someone that I know, and it's someone in my close circle that I have frequent contact with. It's in the education world. And this person will just keep talking and just talk until you're just like, okay, you've said like 150 words that mean nothing now. And I stopped listening like 150 words ago. So you have to really be cognizant of that. You don't owe everyone the entire thought process that led you there. Your job is to communicate direction, not defend it. So how do you stop over-explaining? Well, let's make this practical. First, get clear before you speak. If you're still sorting it out internally, you'll talk your way through it out loud, and I do that a lot. So take your time to settle the decision first. Now, it is okay to find a trusted friend or colleague that you can actually talk through it with and just verbalize out loud, because sometimes just saying it out loud, talking through it, even if they don't say a single word to you, you can actually work through whatever it is and have a great explanation on the other side. Sometimes, however, they can be that thought partner instead of just a listening partner and help you work through whatever it is that you're trying to settle. But regardless, once you get it worked through, you're able to communicate it much more clearly and much more concisely. Next, lead with the decision, not the story. Say it, pause, let it land. Next, use anchoring language. Simple, grounded phrase work. Something like, this is the direction we're moving, or this is what we're prioritizing, or this is the expectation going forward. And this is the one that gets all educators. In the end, don't rush to fill the silence. I know, wait time is hard. It really is. I've gotten much better at that as a teacher first and then as a leader next. Silence doesn't mean you're unsure. It means you trust the decision enough to just let it sit. Silence doesn't mean they disagree or they think you're a loony bin. Sometimes silence means they're processing what you said. Give them time to think through what you've said. They may be processing and pondering, but then they may come up with some really good questions. And if you give them time, you can still, even though there are questions, that doesn't mean it's pushback, but you can still answer those questions much more concisely, much more quickly. And questions don't always mean pushback. Sometimes it just means I need more information to understand what you're saying. Because we all know, even though we think we've communicated well, sometimes what is in your head is not what comes out of your mouth. And I am terrible about that because I think quicker than I speak. And I think I've said everything, but I didn't actually communicate as well as I thought I had. So here is a leadership reframe. It's just a little shift that you can sit with. Leadership isn't about explaining yourself into agreement. You're never going to have complete agreement with any decision that you make. It is about standing steady and secure in your own decisions so that others feel safe to follow you. You can be kind but firm. You can be empathetic and clear. And you can listen but still lead. You don't have to trade warmth for authority. You can actually have both. And you don't have to give a speech every time you make a decision or every time you communicate something. You're not trying to win an Oscar. There's a cartoon, I think it might be The Incredibles, where he says something like, is he monologuing? Stop monologuing. Say it and then stop talking. You know that clear communication in your leadership is a gift. Sometimes you have to build that skill and practice a little bit, but you can do it. When you're calm and very confident in what you're saying, that builds trust. When you become frantic looking like I do sometimes or animated sometimes, that can destroy that trust because then they're like, wow, her leadership is like crazy. And you don't want to come off cray-cray. Sometimes saying less is exactly what makes your leadership louder. Until next time, guys, lead with purpose, speak with calm and clarity, and trust that your presence already carries weight. I'll see you back here next week. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.